pictures. Do you need to start?
So let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it now.
You can see it? Okay. Can you still see your screen as well?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll quickly, I think you did it last week, but we'll quickly just go over making a new Python file just to refresh your memory, and then we'll start on the actual project. So do you remember how to make a new Python file once you've had idle open?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so how do you do it?
So you go into File, then click New.
Yep. New file. And then do you remember how to,
I think.
yeah, that's correct. So you go File and then New File. And then, so you can see the difference between the file and the shell because the file is just plain. Yeah. Hi, David. Can you hear me okay? Hello? Hello? Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Oh, okay, cool. So we just started. So if you can open up idle, please.
Yes, did.
Yep. And then we were just going over how to make a new file.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I think the internet connection's a bit slow. So I'll just speak a bit slowly because I think it's lagging a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. So Chester has already done this, but once you have idle open, to make a new file, you just click File and then click the button that says New File. And then you should get this blank screen.
Yep.
So let me know when both of you are up to this step.
I'm done.
It's a bit slow, so I'm just gonna wait a couple of seconds to see if it's lagging. Can you still hear me, David? Yep, okay. Do you think you could speak a bit closer to the mic, please? You're quite soft.
Yes.
Okay, yep, that's better.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So do you have the new file? Do you have idle open? Yep. Okay. So I'll just quickly go over again. The difference between a Python shell and the actual file is the shell looks like this with the 3 arrows.
Yes.
And then the file is just blank. And then the shell does things line by line.
So the first one shows you how to what to do with Python, those words on the top. And if you open a new file, it means you already know how to do everything, and you can do it on your own without writing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so like the first one with the shell, like it only does stuff line by line. But like you said, when you know how to do the things, you can go straight away to your file and then save it and run it yourself. And you can always come back to this file. So I'll just quickly, we went over this, but I'll just quickly do like a little test program so that you know how to save it and run it, because we went over it last week, but it was towards the end. So do you remember how to print something onto the screen?
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll just do one line that says print. And then remember, if it's a word, what do you need to put the word in? So if it's a string, how do you have to type it?
I forgot.
You forgot? That's okay. So you have to put it in quotation marks. So either the double ones or the single ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can just say something like hello world.
Yes.
And then, so this is just really short just to test to see if it works. So now to run it, you can click run on the top and then run module. Or you can press F5 on your keyboard. So
Yes.
it's the same thing, yep. And then it'll first ask you to save it. So every time before you run it, it will ask you to save it. So you press OK,
Okay.
and then you just choose where you want to save it. So it might be good to have like a folder with all your Python projects from this
Okay,
class.
so scripts.
Scripts, so not scripts, maybe like on your computer somewhere.
No, I'll do scripts.
Okay, scripts, just somewhere you know where you can find it later on. So actually, it's hang on. It's better to do it out of this folder because this folder is where like the Python installing stuff is. So it's better to
Yes.
save your own Python project somewhere else. So Chester, I was just going over how to save a Python project. Do you remember how we did it last week?
No, not really.
No? Okay, that's okay. So all I did was in that new file, now let me just close this. In that new file, just to test that it's working, we just wrote print and then hello world. So do that on your new file as well. So just one line of code to write something on the screen. Yeah, so David, generally it's better not to save it in that scripts file because all those folders are part of the Python package, which is how you install and use idle. So it's better to save it in a different folder.
Yes, okay.
Yep. And Chester, do you remember why we have these quotation marks here?
To tell the computer to like print it.
Yeah. So because those quotation marks means it's a string, so it means it's just a word. So yeah. And then once you've done that, we wanted to try test it like by running it. So let me know when you've done it.
I've
Oh,
done
yeah,
it.
okay.
You've done it? Yep. Okay.
And
Yeah. Sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, I've done it.
Yep. Okay. Both of you have done it. So then we just want to click run on the top and then
Yes.
run module. And
Yeah.
then this is where I was telling you, David, you have to save it. So Chester, every time before you run your Python program, it has to save. So
Yeah.
you just press OK and then choose somewhere where to save it on. So don't save it in this Python folder where it has like scripts and stuff, because that's part of like the package which kind of installs and runs Python. So if you save it there, it might get a bit confused. So try save it somewhere on your computer, like desktop or documents or something, and create a folder if you want. So I might put it in documents and just go new folder, Python projects. And then every time, whenever you have a Python project that you're saving, it's always good to give it a meaningful name. So what I mean by meaningful is just some name that you know what is in that program. So like, you know how sometimes things might be saved untitled 1, 2, 3? That's not a meaningful name because we might not know what that program does. So for example, we could write here test print program or something, because that's something that you will know what the program does. And once you've chosen a spot and given it a name, just press save. And then your shell should pop up. and then it should say what your print statement. So in this case, it should say hello world. And on the top here, just above that line, it says where it's saved. Like it's telling you which file it's running. So let me know if that worked for everyone.
Yeah, okay, good.
It worked?
Yep.
Cool. I think Chester's internet might be a bit slow. So I'll wait a couple of seconds and see. Oh, okay. Chester, can you hear me again? So Chester, what I said before was just when you press run and once you've saved it, a Python shell should pop up with the program. Yep. So did it work for you?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. And I'll quickly show you another thing. So like you can close the Python shell, keep your file open. So when you have a file, it means you can always go back and edit it. But another thing before doing that, I'll quickly show you, is there's something called autocomplete in idle. So for example, if you're writing a function, say you're trying to write that print function, but you forgot what exactly the word is, like you could start writing PR, and then if you press tab on your keyboard, you might get a little drop down. Or if tab doesn't work, try press control and the space button. Or if you have a Mac command and the space button, you should have a drop down with different options. Did that work? Did either of them work for you guys?
Yep.
Yep. So are you guys both using Windows or are you using Mac, or what kind of
I'm using Windows.
You're using Windows? Okay, cool.
Me
And
too.
David? Okay, that's cool. So that's the same as me. So then you would just go tab or control space, and then it'll try finish off what you were typing. And then I think if you just press space, it finishes off the word. So that's pretty handy if you forget what exactly it is or how to spell it.
Yeah.
And then you can finish like the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
So then I'll just get you guys to save it and run it again, just to test it. And since you saved it once, it should automatically save it next time you run it and just straight away run your program. So did that work as well?
I'll do it now.
Yeah, so just check. So generally, whenever you are doing a program, so this one's pretty simple, it's just printing 2 lines. But generally, when you're doing a program, it's always good to test it every now and then to see if it's running. So every time you make a change, it's good to run it so that you can see that it's working like it's meant to, like you coded it to work. Because sometimes if you have a small error and then you try to do a whole bunch of like a lot of lines of code and then try to run it, you might get an error and then you wouldn't know where the error is. But if you run it after every little bit of code you write, then if you do get an error, you know, oh, it's the last thing I wrote.
Oh yes, that's what I did.
Really?
When there was an error in my script, I just I didn't do anything. I just did a new page.
Oh, a new page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes like errors can be sneaky and you don't know where they are, which is why it's good to always do that.
Yes.
So one more thing I'll quickly show you guys before we start on with the lesson. So I'll get you guys to close both the Python shell and your actual file, but just remember where you saved that Python file. So I'll show you how to open it again. So pretend it's a new day and like you're done. Like if you want to start working on the same file again, what you need to do is you need to find where it is. So mine's in documents, I think. So find the folder and then find which file you saved. So let me know when you guys have found it.
I found it.
You found it? Okay, cool. David, did you find it?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So once you have the file, once you can see your file, you just need to right click on it. And then you should be able to see, make sure you click on the file and then right click. You should be able to see something saying edit with idle. Do you see it?
Yep.
So, yep. So click that, click edit with idle. And then it should open up your file again. Might take a couple of seconds to load. So now you can go back and add more to your file or edit stuff in your file and just run it the same way. Chester, did you manage to open yours as well?
No.
No? Okay, so what do you see when you right click on your file on the program?
It like,
Do you just see something that says like view, sort by, group by, stuff
no.
like that? No? What do you see?
Like, I clicked on it to like, it like clicked on the file, then I right clicked it
Mm-hmm.
again. It like thinks I want to change the name.
Oh, okay. So you might have double clicked on it accidentally, because generally if you double click on it, it tries, like if you double click on the name, it thinks you want to try change the name. So try click a bit away from the name, like next to
I
it.
tried that.
You tried that too? So make sure, are you using a mouse or just the thing on
Mouse.
the keyboard? Okay, so make sure the right click is the other click. So you first click on it normally and
Yep.
then click on it. Is it still trying to rename it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to quickly share your screen? I'll stop sharing mine and you can share yours. So David, while you wait, if you want, you can try add a couple of things to that test file if you
Yes.
want, like based on what we learned in the last couple of weeks.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. Okay. So you click on it. And now if you right click. Oh, okay. Okay, so maybe yours works a bit differently, but if you just click out of it again, sorry, and then just click on it once, and without right clicking on the top, do you see how there's a few buttons there? Like organize, open, share with. Click on open, but maybe. Yeah, so we'll see if that opens. Otherwise, click on the arrow next to open. Try choose a default program. So Python might, if you click on Python, it might try to open it and run it. So maybe click on that choose default program and see if you can try find idle. Otherwise, I'll show you another way. So if you just close that. So another thing you can do is if you just open up idle, just the new one, instead of going file, new file, you can just go file, open. So click on the top.
Yet, Mom.
And then open, and now you can go find where you saved it again. So David, another way of opening the file is by opening idle and just clicking on file and open. Yep, and now if you click on that and then press that button open on the bottom, sorry.
Yay!
Yep, yeah, sorry. It could be must be your settings for right click is a bit different to mine. But yeah, so you can just do it this way, Chester. It
Okay.
does it both the same way. But yeah. Okay, I'm gonna start sharing my screen again. So we don't actually need this test print program again. So, because we're gonna work on something else now, that was just to test saving it and running the file. So if you want, you can either create a new file now and just keep that one, or you can edit this file. So I'm just gonna make a new file. So what we're going to do today is something called for loops, and we're going to revise a bit of what we did last week with Turtle as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So.
Well, last week we didn't do much of anything.
Oh yes, I think David, you were a bit late last week, so you missed the first bit of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last week I couldn't open.
Yeah. So we're going to go through something called Turtle. I'll try briefly go over it again for you, and if you have any questions, just ask. But
okay.
Yeah. Just make sure you have a new file open, or if you're using that other file, just delete the other stuff in it for now. So Chester, do you remember a bit of Turtle?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I'll just quickly, do you want to quickly explain to David what Turtle is? Like what we use it for?
So Turtle is like something that you use to like draw with.
Yeah. Yeah. So Turtle is something called the library in Python. A library is just a whole bunch of code that someone else has written, which we can use. So we use Turtle to draw things on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing we need to do you remember what the first thing we need to do is, Chester? If we want to use Turtle?
Turtle.
Yeah. So David, the first
Yes?
thing we need to do is type the word import, and then we want to type the word turtle, all in lowercase. So what that is doing is we're importing the library called Turtle. Because we didn't write that code, someone else did, we have to import it so that we can use the things in Turtle.
Okay.
Yep. So what we'll do is we'll draw a little square with Turtle. So the next thing we need to do you remember what it is, Chester?
So we make up a name for the turtle.
Yep. So
which
make up a name.
I just usually call it Bob.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to use Bob too. So David, now what we need to do is we kind of need to make something a bit like a variable, which is like what our turtle will be. Yep.
Bob
equals
turtle dot turtle with an uppercase T.
Yep. Good job. And then
brackets at the end.
Yep. Good job. Yep. So Bob, David, what you need to type is the word like a name for your turtle equal.
Oh, yeah.
And then we use turtle with the lowercase because that's saying we're using something from that turtle library, the thing we just imported. So turtle with the lowercase and then dot turtle with the uppercase. Yep. So the uppercase turtle kind of means like a turtle object. So we're making Bob into a turtle which can like move and draw onto the screen. So we'll quickly, so if you haven't saved it already, if there's a new file, we'll save it. Otherwise, just straight away run it and you can see what happens. So I'm just going to quickly save mine.
What does the turtle do? So something just appeared on my screen. It was Python turtle graphics.
Yep. So turtle is like a graphics thing which allows us to draw on the screen like lines and circles. So I'll show you, that's the next step.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's kind of like like paint,
turtle
but
is
you can
Bob?
do it automatically.
So
Yeah.
turtle is Bob, and what does that do? Do we just give it a name and nothing
Yeah,
else?
so then we can
Oh, yeah.
control it later on. So that's the next step, but I'll just show you. So I'm going to call this turtle loop because later on we're going to use something called for loops. So turtle for loop. Okay, so what you would have seen, David, is the graphics thing that opened. And then do you see that little arrow there? That's our turtle, which we can move around and make it draw on the screen. So that's the thing we call Bob.
Oh yeah, and how do we move it around?
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do now.
Okay,
So
okay.
we'll just close this. So what we'll do is we'll do a small square. So Chester, do you remember what we might need to do to draw a square?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the first thing?
So do
So
Bob
do we,
dot forward.
Yep. So David,
yep.
the name we gave, which
Bob
ours is called
dot.
Bob. Yep. And then we type the word forward. So forward is kind of like an inbuilt function in that turtle library.
But we didn't type it in. So you're just
I'm
like
just showing
for
you.
itself.
Sorry, what did you say, David?
Nothing.
Oh, okay, Chester, sorry, did you say something? No?
I'm just showing like a small square,
A small
Only-
square? Yeah.
like
That's
the
fine.
number's 90.
The number's tiny. Oh, okay. Yep.
90.
Oh, 90. Okay. That's a pretty good size, I think. Yep. So David, forward is like a function which that turtle library has. And because we already made a turtle object, dot forward is like part of Bob. So we're telling Bob to move forward. And
Oh,
inside
yes,
the brackets, we need to tell it how much to move forward. So I'm
Okay.
pretty
Like
sure it's
90?
pixels. Yeah, so you can try 90. So 90. So it's kind of like
Yes.
steps, but I think it's in pixels maybe.
And what do you do next?
So if
Do
you
you
want to
just
see how it
go to
works,
the next line? Yes.
yep. So if you want to see how it works, just run it. And Chester, you can test it too. Test
Oh,
if it's working, and it should have
Run
drawn a straight line.
oh yeah, okay. That's
Yeah.
good.
So if you want, because we're making a square, if you want it to be a bit bigger, you can change that number 90 to be a bigger number. Or if you want it to be smaller, you can change it to be a smaller number.
Oh yeah, like 100. No,
Mhm.
that would be too small. Like 100 forwards, then turn right, then 100 forwards and turn right again. Yeah,
So
like
that's the
that.
next step.
So it understands turn right.
So instead of turn right, there's another thing we can use. So Chester, do you remember what it is?
Pardon?
Do you remember how we make the turtle turn? Do you remember
Yeah.
how we go? So what do we need to type?
Bob
Mhm.
dot left, then brackets, and in the brackets, like however, like whatever degree angle you want it to turn.
Yep, exactly.
Oh
So
yeah,
David,
okay.
you hear that? Yeah. So
Yeah.
like if you saw when you ran your program, you would have seen like your turtle was facing that way to the right. So if we go bob.left, if we want it to face up, it's all based on degrees. So do you know how many degrees we'd need to change it to face up?
I think I do.
Yeah. So what do you think it is?
It's 90 degrees or 100 and no, oh yeah. Okay, 90.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah, because it was already facing this way, so we just want to move it to the left 90 degrees.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. And then you can run it again and see what happens. So I'm going to make a smaller square, so I just changed my forward to 50. So it might have not have, it wouldn't have drawn the line yet, but you can see that it changed to face up.
Nazar, смотри.
So David, Do you see how it's facing up now? So now you can continue it and make it go forward and left and try to do a square.
Okay.
So if you want to do a square, how many times do you have to repeat it? So how many sides would it have? Can anyone tell me? So how many sides does this? Yeah, 4. So you want to go forward, turn, forward, turn, forward, turn, forward, turn. So you can just copy and paste it if it's easier. So sometimes if you want to do like fancy shapes like a house or something, it might be like good to plan it out on a piece of paper, how you might draw it. So for example, if you're drawing a square, you can plan out like which ways you have to turn and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like a square is relatively simple. So it's pretty much the same lines. But yeah. So once you've done that, try run it and see what happens.
I just made a square.
You made a square? Cool. Did it work?
Yeah.
Yep. Good job. So David, did you make a square?
Yes.
Yep. And did it work? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And did it make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So we did this last week, but I'll just quickly tell you. You can also change like the size of the pen and the color of the pen in Turtle. And you can also change like what your cursor looks like. So I'll quickly show you that. So Chester, do you remember what we might type in to change one of those things?
Bob.shape.
Yep. Bob.shape.
And in brackets, what shape you want it to be.
Yep. So we can go bob.shape and then we can type the word turtle if we want it to be a turtle shape. So David, there's like a few set of shapes that Python knows. So you have to use those shapes. Like if I typed in the word apple, it might not know that as a shape, so we might get an error. So if you wanted to find what the shapes were that Python uses, you can go into Google and type in like Python turtle shapes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then that first result, which is like docs.python, is where you can find the answers to that. And then I won't go through the color and size thing now because we did it last week. But if you wanted to know how to change it, you can go Python turtle pen size. So it's generally like bob.pen size or bob.color.
Yeah.
And then you put in the color. But to know what sizes and colors. Pardon?
A few days ago,
Yeah.
I wrote the code on paper
Oh yeah.
to like get the turtle up and like get the Python turtle graphics up.
Yeah.
And to draw a square.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So you wrote it on paper.
Yeah.
So like, was that to test your memory kind of so that you could just practice the code? That's a good idea. Yeah. So sometimes it's good to like plan it on paper, especially later on if you do really complicated projects. It's good to plan out what steps you're doing. And like you said, on paper as well. Pretty good. Okay. So just run it again. If you made any changes, just run it just to test that it's working okay. And then I'll introduce a new concept. So check that you can still draw a square and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Happen? Did you manage to change the look of it, David?
Wait a sec. Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go back into our file.
So do we do new file?
Oh no, so sorry, we'll go back to that file where we were writing it. So I'm going to explain something.
Already have gone to a new file.
Oh yeah, so whichever file you had your square on, we're still going to use the same file. So make sure that's open.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm going to explain something called for loops. Has anyone heard of a for loop before?
No.
No.
No, that's okay. Have you heard of a loop in general, like in programming? It's okay if you haven't.
Not quite sure.
That's okay. So that's what we're going to be learning now anyway. So a loop basically allows us to repeat bits of code. So in Python, we can use a for loop to repeat a bit of code. For example, do you see how right now to make our square, we have these two lines, which we've repeated 4 times?
Yeah.
So instead of, so like, that's quite a bit of code. So if we wanted to make it more like shorter and kind of more efficient, what we can do is we can delete those extra 3 bits and just keep it once, and then we can put it in a loop so that it will repeat 4 times instead of having to like type those lines out 4 times. Does that idea kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I'll show you how to do it.
What would you type?
Yep, so I'll show you what to type. So David, does that concept make sense to you?
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So in Python, to do a for loop, we type the word for, and then we type the word I. So this letter I is kind of like a variable, so it can actually be anything. Like you could be like for, like, you know, apple in something. But generally in code, like they use I as kind of like a counter. So we'll just stick with I. And we'll go for I in. So the next thing you write is for I in. And then we want to repeat it, because it's a square, how many times do we want to repeat that bit of code?
4.
4. So to do 4, we type in the word range. So in Python, there's something called range. Have you done it before, David?
I accidentally deleted.
Sorry, what did you say? I didn't hear you.
I accidentally deleted that file.
Oh, you accidentally deleted that file. Did you like delete the file, or did you delete what's in the file? Because if
Yeah, I deleted the file, but I can go again to Python. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Okay. Because if you deleted what's in the file, you can just click undo and it should appear again. But otherwise, quickly try. You can see on my screen what's written, so just try copy that. But yeah, so to do the for loop, we write for I in range, and then we do the brackets again. And inside the brackets, we want to say how many times we want to repeat it. So if it's 4, we'll write for I in a range of 4. So that's pretty much saying repeat this 4 times. And there's one more thing we need to do. So in Python, it likes spaces, because right now we need to make sure that this bit of code is part of this for loop, because otherwise if we write stuff after it, it might not know what's part of the for loop and what's just meant to happen once. So to do that, you type in, keep the bracket, you type in colon, like the 2 dots, and press enter. And do you see how your cursor is kind of indented a bit? So it's not at the very left now. And that's where you'd put your actual code. So you can either press delete to make that go forward, or if you click on your line, you can press tab to indent it in, so like to push it in a bit. So Python is a bit picky about indentation and spaces. So if you didn't have it, it would tell you there's an error. So does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So the reason why we indent it is like if I wanted to do some stuff afterwards, like for example, print a square or something. Because I just want this thing to happen once. So that's why it's back like to the very edge. So that way our program knows only this stuff is meant to be repeated 4 times. If this was indented as well, then that would also be repeated every time. But we just want to do it normally, so we put it back on the edge. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. Chester, does it make sense to you too?
Yep.
Yep. So now what you can do is you can run it and see what happens. So run module, and it should do the same thing. So did yours work? Did it still do a square? Does it look the same as the square you had before?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, that's good. Chester, does yours work as well?
I'm trying it now.
Okay, cool. So when you actually run it, it shouldn't look any different. It's just when you look at the code, you can see the difference.
Yep.
Yep. Does that make sense? Chester, did you try running it now and see what happens? Or is it still loading? So Chester, did yours work?
Yep.
Did it work? The square?
Not quite sure.
Okay. When you
Because I did what you said, then it did what it did, and then I made it say print something.
yeah. Oh, so the print thing. Okay. So the print thing, if you have your shell open, it says the print on a different place. So Turtle does all its stuff in this thing called Python Turtle Graphics. That's because we're just drawing lines and shapes and stuff. But if you use like that print statement, it'll do it how we normally do it. You know how in our first program it had print hello world or something? It'll just appear in this Python shell here. So do you see that Python shell? So like it won't print the word in your Python graphics window. Do you see where it's written, Chester?
Yep.
Yep.
Stored and
Hang on, I think it's a bit laggy. I'll just wait a couple of seconds. So David, while you're waiting, you can try change the color of the pen and things like that. So to change the color of the pen,
Yep.
I'll just quickly explain it before Chester comes in. You can go like bob.color, but type in the word color without the U because they spell it like the American way.
Yep.
And then inside that color, inside the brackets in quotation marks, you want to say a color like green or something. So again, if you want to see exactly what color choices they have, you can go onto that website and type in like Python turtle colors. But generally they have standard ones like green, blue, red, and stuff like that.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, Chester, I was just quickly explaining to David how to change the color of the pen. But what were you saying about your project? What happened?
So I did the then I did try to make it do a shape, but it didn't work.
It didn't work. Did it come up with an error?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So do you want to share your screen so I can see what's happening?
Okay.
So David, if you've tried the color thing, try changing the size of the pen. So try going to that website I told you and see what happens.
Yep.
Okay. So do you mind opening? Have you been doing this in your file, Chester? Or have you been doing it in the Python shell?
I've been doing it in the Python shell.
Oh, okay. It might be easier to type it in because when you do it in the Python shell, you have to do it line by line. So do you want to maybe quickly go and open a new file, but don't close this shell because then you can see what's written down. Because it's just easier to type out like when you're doing lots of bits of text. Because the Python shell is good like when you're doing like a couple of lines, but sometimes it's easier to set it out, especially because of the spacing. But one issue I can see is you have the bob.forward and then right next to it you have bob.left, but that should be in a new line.
Okay.
So I think that's the error that's coming up. So it says invalid syntax, which means like something, the way you typed it is wrong. So yeah, it's just that you have the bob.left right next to the forward thing. But yeah, so it might be easy if you just quickly type it in this file so you can set it out nicely. So we're using turtles, so you go to import turtle. And then you have to make your little bob turtle. Bob equals. So David, did you figure out how to change the size of the pen? Did it work? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so you can make it like, I think there's a range of numbers from 1 to 10, I think. And then did you test it and see if it worked as well? Okay, yep. And now what you want to do, Chester, is you want to type in that for loop. So we want to repeat it 4 times. So you'd type in, yep, what you wrote there. So for I in range 4. And then press enter. And now it's indented. So now to do the square, what 2 lines do you need to do? Oh, I think he's dropping out again. Oh, I'm dropping out maybe. So Chester, to do the square, you just need your 2 lines. bob.forward, yeah. And then in the new line, so you press enter again, and then you do bob.left. So the error you had before was just that they were right next to each other. But it's like a new command. It's like a new kind of step, so you have to do it in a new. Also, to actually click on that autocorrect thing, I think if you just press space, it automatically fills it out. And left.90. Oh, sorry, brackets 90. And then if you wanted to do your print thing, if you wanted to print something once, where would you put it? Like at the end, if you wanted to say the square is done or something.
Yeah.
Where would you type it in?
No.
So you can there. So what do you think would happen if you typed it there? Yeah. Yeah. So David, did that make sense to you as well? So anything that's indented after that for loop would be repeated 4 times. So if you wanted to do something once, like later on, like what Chester's doing with this print statement, you'd press backspace so that you're back in the edge again.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll just see if this works. And after that, I'll quickly show you guys something else. So then try run that Chester and see what happens. And then, yep, just press OK. Oh yeah, so this is a new file, so you would just need to save it again. And don't forget to give it a meaningful name. So because we're using a loop here, you could call it like title for loop or something. So again, whenever you have like variables or whenever you have to name something when you're programming, always give it meaningful names, because sometimes if you have a really complicated program or like a lot of files, if you have like names like, you know, file 1, file 2, file 3, you wouldn't know what's what, and then you'd have to like try go into everyone to figure out what it's doing. Yep, and then Chester just save that. Cool. So the square works, and then the print function, do you see it back in your Python shell? It says marshmallow.
Yep.
Yep, okay. So I'm gonna share my screen again really quickly. Share. So I'm just gonna quickly show you guys something.
Yep.
So can you see my screen again?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yes.
So if I had something like this, do you see my for loop right now? If I was trying to draw a square, and then I had this one or this one, what's the difference between these two for loops, like the first one and the second one? Which one would draw the square? So the difference between these. Can anyone see a difference? Do they look the same?
Yes.
Yes? Chester, do they look the same to you as well?
Yes.
Okay, so the difference is this bob.left. So if I run it, I'll show you.
Oh yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, you see it now. So what it's meant to do, what I want it to do is just draw like 2 squares, but let's see what it actually does.
Oh yeah.
Yep, so it drew 1 square.
Oh, so
and
it
then
goes. Oh yes.
drew 1
Okay,
big
so it
line.
doesn't understand what you want.
Yep. So the reason why is if we go back into the code, so the first time it did the square correctly, so it did that correctly, but the second time I didn't get any errors, but it still didn't do it how I wanted it to. Does anyone want to try have a guess at why that is?
Because the bob dot left is not on the line.
Yeah, exactly. So even though it didn't get me an error, like the program just thinks, oh, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do a line. And the reason why it didn't get an error is because there's nothing wrong with the code. It's just something wrong with the logic. So what Chester was saying was right, but this bob dot left needs to be like indented in. So if you want to indent something, you can also just press tab. So if I didn't have it indented, did you see how it drew just like a long line?
Yeah.
The reason for that is it just repeated this line, bob dot forward, 4 times. So it just went like 50, 50, 50, 50. And then it turned once. So that's why it ended up pointing upwards.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you have to say to it that turn 4 times and forwards 4 times.
Yep, exactly. So if we want it to always go straight and then turn, we have to make sure that both things are in that loop. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. Now I'll give you guys a little challenge. I want you guys to have a go at doing different shapes, like a hexagon or an octagon or a triangle.
I think I'm gonna just pass on that because
So just try one of them, okay? So we have
I'm gonna try to do a
I'm gonna do a triangle.
Okay, try to do a triangle, yeah.
Triangles is easiest.
The easiest. So just remember, you have to think about your angles as well. And you have to think about how many sides a triangle will have and how much you want it to turn. So it's pretty similar to the square. You just need to change a couple of numbers.
Yes.
So do you guys have an idea on how you might start it?
Yep.
Yeah? Was that a yes or no?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So if it's a triangle, so has anyone tried it out and seen how it looks?
I did, but it looks awful.
It looks awful. What did it look like?
It looked like I don't know what you call that. It looks like a cat.
A cat?
That was holding, I don't know, something in its paws.
That sounds pretty cool.
That sounds pretty cool, but
it doesn't look cool.
If you look at it, it looks like, I don't know, like a kraken.
Okay, so Chester, did you try run it and see what happened?
No, I'm trying it right now.
You're trying it right now? Okay, after you try it, if we'll see how it goes. Otherwise, I'll give you guys a little hint.
Yes, please.
What did yours turn out like, Chester?
I'm doing it at the moment.
Are you a bit stuck?
Just thinking.
Just thinking? Okay. So I'll give... So David, what did you write in your code?
I wrote for Bob
Mhm.
Bob, no, import turtle.
Mhm.
Bob equals turtle dot turtle those thingies.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just meant the for loop bit, like the one where you had the for I.
Yeah.
That
Then
bit.
then Bob dot shape turtle.
Mhm.
Then for one in range 3,
Mhm.
Bob turn 50.
So did you go bob dot forward, or did you bob dot left?
Bob dot forward.
Yep, forward. Okay, yep. Bob dot forward 50. Yep.
Then Bob dot then Bob dot left 90 degrees.
Okay. So.
Then I went Bob forwards
Mhm.
50. Then I went Bob 90 degrees right.
Yeah.
Then I did forward and forward 50 and forward 50s, and I did then I did turn right. Then did turn right 90 degrees. I tried to make a pentagon.
A pentagon. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
and it was hard.
one reason is in the for loop it's meant to make it easier. So what you just need the same 3 lines you had before. You don't need anything extra, and the only thing you would change is you had the first step right. So for I in range 3, because a triangle has 3 sides, you want to do it 3 times. But a square has, when we're doing a square, we want to turn 90 degrees. But if we're doing a triangle, we want to turn 120 degrees. So the reason for that is, I'll quickly show you. If you open up a calculator.
Yes.
So how many
Triangle.
Pardon?
I created a triangle.
Oh, okay, cool. Good job.
A wide one.
A wide one. That's pretty cool. Yep. So I'm quickly explaining to David the angle we have to turn is 120. The reason for that is we go 360, because 360 is a full circle. And then a triangle has 3 sides, so we go divided by 3. And that's 120. So each time we want to move forward a bit and then turn 120. Move forward a bit more, 120, move forward again, 120. And then when you run it, you should be able to see a triangle.
I didn't want to work it out, so I just did.
Did you just guess it?
Left 45 3 times.
Oh, left 45. Oh, yeah.
No, I knew it was Sid left dot 40 left brackets 45 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you write the code 3 times? That line of code 3 times?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can do that, but remember, the loops make it easier so that you don't actually have to repeat that bit of code. So do you remember how when we were making the square, or even now, when we're making a triangle, it would mean we would have to repeat that bit of code 2 extra times. But because of this loop, it's really short, and that's all the code we need to make a shape. So that's actually the end of the lesson. But did anyone have any questions?
No.
I finish? Okay, cool. If you want, at home, you can try make some other shapes. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next week.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.